Hello all you real-time strategy loving cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be taking a preview look at a new game on Steam's early access platform called Abatron, which is a multiplayer action strategy game that combines real-time strategy with third-person and first-person shooting. The game is currently in development by W3 Studios, and the premise of the game is fairly simple. It takes a fairly traditional RTS. You have base building, you have unit production, you have resource management, and then it takes those core elements and throws in the ability to jump into any given soldier on the battlefield into third person or first person mode so that you can shoot your way to victory. Now I have to say first off, I love the idea and the core concept behind this game. It's a concept that hasn't really been done before to any decent standard, and even in its current early access platform, even with all the problems that are currently in the game, the transition between the strategy element and the third person / first person shooting is really seamless. It feels really good, and it's executed actually surprisingly well. What I like about it the most, however, is the fact that its progression is slightly different. So for example, when you are in strategy mode, each unit has its own specific set of stats and health and that kind of thing, and that remains the same throughout. When you jump into a unit, however, that unit becomes the commander. It becomes you, and you have your own various progression, which means that you can, as a character in any given match, level up. So it means that, say if you get to level 7, that means that you are going to be a powerful unit. That means that when you jump into a unit, that unit becomes you, and then that unit is then stronger than it was before. I also have to say that I quite enjoyed the setting, in the fact that it's very much full on sci-fi. There's aliens, there's extraterrestrial monsters on the planet that are neutral and just will attack both players, and there's a certain kind of heavy metal feel about it almost, because a lot of the monsters are cybernetically enhanced. It reminds me very much of Doom, in fact. Even in this early stage, the game is shaping up to be looking great visually. I have to say that it doesn't look the best, and it certainly needs some work done on some of the textures and the high-res resolutions, but a lot of the character models look great, a lot of the unit models look great, the buildings look great, a lot of the special effects look really nice, and I was particularly impressed with the level design and how detailed a lot of the levels were. Now the game is very much feature incomplete, and even the faction that you get to play as in the early access version doesn't have all of its units available to it. The base building mode in the game is something that's really simply done. You have a giant spaceship in orbit, and then that shoots down basically a building laser with nanobots in, and then it builds the structures that you want to build. The resource collection in the game is also very simple, and it is designated around your command center, so you have limited slots available, and then you can build certain resource collectors in those slots. And if you, say for example, need to change up your tactics and you need a certain resource at any given time over the others, then you can just demolish a resource collector and build the one that you need. One of the things that I really did like was the walls. You are able to build walls around your base, and each wall has various turret slots. And what the great thing is, it's like full-on sci-fi, so you can build these basically circular orbs that will detach from the wall and then shoot down lasers. And that sounds great in the most part, but the great thing is that when you build a ton of them, it is really satisfying to watch a massive group of these big metal orbs just firing purple lasers down on enemy troops that are trying to get you. That being said, however, the game does fall into a couple of pitfalls. First, there seems to be one overriding strategy that basically trumps everything else, and that is basically build a couple of artillery creatures, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 artillery creatures, build enough units to escort them to the enemy base, and then you can basically destroy the enemy's base in very few shots. So the balance is pretty much way off at this current time. I think that the level design could also be better. I think the levels look great, but they are very almost MOBA-like in the sense that there's certain paths that you can go down and it's not open as a traditional RTS would be. And I think that causes problems because there's, basically a direct route from one base to another and you could just go around the side, and it struggles to really incorporate some really good environmental hazards and some really good environmental level design to use that to your advantage in any given combat situation. The game is also pretty damn buggy at this current stage. You're talking UI bugs, message bugs, there can be gameplay bugs. Now, I've never had anything completely game breaking, but I have had crashes with the game, so that needs to be taken into account if you are going to be interested in picking this up in its current state. Be prepared for a lot of bugs, be prepared for a lot of particularly UI and menu bugs, and of course the occasional crash. I have to say that I really fell in love with the mechanical idea behind Abatron. I think it's really interesting. I like the fact that when you jump into a unit, each unit has its own different abilities and you can use them to various situations. I love the unit design, I love the faction design. I just don't think that this game is ready yet, like by any stretch of the imagination, even for an early access. The strategy overall is outright broken because there is an optimal way to win. I feel that the game needs a lot of balancing. It does need a core design rerun in terms of its strategy, because you can't just have a situation where I can basically one-shot the enemy base just because I have 5 or 6 artillery strikes. Ultimately, I think that there's a lot of work to do here. It has a great amount of potential. I really love the core concept. It's something that you don't really see ever with the ability for a commander just to take control of a unit and use that unit in battle. I absolutely love that idea. It's a lot of fun facing down another player with 2 commanders with 2 different units just to see who will win. And it really can turn the tide of battle when you take control from a third person or a first person way. But it still needs a lot of work, and it is not ready, in my opinion, to be played at any great length. I think that it's missing a lot of its core features, including, a campaign mode, including more abilities, more factions, and of course, with the factions that it has it needs to have a full unit roster, which it currently does not. For me, while the game certainly has a lot of potential, and I hope to God that it pulls off what it's trying to accomplish in a really well executed way come the full launch, and that it turns out to be something that is really, really fun and great to play, I have to say that if you're interested in it, it's probably worth waiting at least until it's been improved. I mean, the developers themselves are looking at about 1 year into early access, which means that they're looking, around late 2017, early 2018 for a full release, which is a long time in early access. So for me, I would say hold off. Wait until the game starts to take shape into the final version of the game, and then go and take a look at it. I certainly think it's got a lot of potential. I absolutely fell in love with the core concept. It's something that I really want to see succeed because it's unique in that way. However, in terms of a consumer getting the most value out of their money spent, I think that you need to wait until a lot of the bugs have been fixed. There's a full unit roster in there. There's more gameplay modes. There's more objectives. There's a campaign mode of some sort. And of course, a lot of the audio-visual issues get fixed. And that is my preview of Abatron. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are in the video in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe and share. And as always, I will see you next